Hey, what's up everyone? It's your girl Brain Shanae, and today I'll be sharing with you my March wrap up. And I am back, and also if you're new to my channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. So, like I said before, I'm going to be sharing with you my March wrap up. Now, at the beginning of March through the middle of March, I had done a mid-month wrap up for March, so I'll leave that up above so you can check that out. And then these are the remainders of the books, or the remainder of the books that I have read in March, which I cannot wait to share with you all. So a lot of the books are amazing, some were frustrating, but then good at the end. But let's go ahead and get started with this video. So this first book is for a read-along that I am in with Erica from The Broken Spine, and this book is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. We have read the first book, The Poppy War, and now we have read the second book. I didn't rate this book at first. I wanted to process what I read. I had to give it some time, and then also we had done a live show having a full discussion about that, which I'll leave up above so you can check that out. But also, this was a very hard-hitting book. We are continuing on with Ren as she's trying to figure out what to do, how to do this, and how to kill the emperor, all this good stuff, right? But in this book, we get to know more about Najah, who was pretty much like her enemy to frenemy in a way, and then they were friends, and then they were enemies again. It's backstabbing, all that stuff within this book. But we get to know more about Najah and how he's been hiding this big secret, not only from, you know, his comrades or his people, but from Ren herself. And Ren is still mourning Alton. After Alton was killed, you know, after the death of Alton, she has not became, I feel like she's had this burden on herself. And in order for her to release that pain, or to take the pain away, is by drugs, which opium, which she uses on occasion to get rid of the pain that she has along having the Phoenix, right? So she's doing this, but then she meets Najah, realizing that he's alive and that he did not die. And then on top of that, she also meets his father. And he had a proposition for Ren that she could not refuse. And that is not only to overthrow the princess, but to have everything as a democracy, to create a democracy and a republic where people can vote, where people have freedom. And she was down for that, but she did not want to be the leader of anything. She was like, no, I do not want to be a leader of nothing. I'm not good at commanding other people. I'm just going to do what you tell me to do. And in that process, a lot of things happens along the way as he's also trying to wean her off of drugs, trying to get her off of drugs in general. And that right there was, I get it. Like, I really thought he was helping her, and I really truly believed he was trying to help Ren to take on what she was going through, but not using drugs as a way out of her pain. So we get to know more about that, and then we get to know more about the shamans, Hesperians, all that. And at the very end of the book, like I said, it took me a while to process everything. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because it was really good. After the live discussion on Erica's channel, I was pondering on it, and I do feel like, yes, she did have some growth. I know that she was naive at the beginning of the book and towards the first book, but I think there was a little bit of growth. I know we were questioning how old she was, and she has to be in her 20s, and she's still making these childish choices. But if you think back into the first book, she really didn't have a childhood. She really didn't have that time where all she could do was just act as a child, be a child. And so she had to grow up really quickly, but then she does have these moments of as a child. And sometimes I put myself in that situation on what would I have done? What would my decisions, what decision would I have made? Like, would I have done what Ren had done? I don't know. I feel like we can't really say because we are not in that situation ourselves. Because I feel like when you're in this situation, you have to make hard choices, and you have to decide, what's better for the long run or short term or whatever. And like I said, I really valued this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely cannot wait to find out what happens to Ren. And Katai, because she's also bonded to him, so she'd be able to use the Phoenix, whereas she wasn't able to do so because the Empress had took it away from her. or stunned it to where she couldn't use the Phoenix ever. But there was a way around that. So hopefully we get like, I'm really like excited for the third book. I think it's called The Burning God, I think, or God Burning, whatever. I am excited for it, but I am like, oh my goodness, this is the last book. I feel like a lot of stuff is going to go down, and I'm like trying to figure out, okay, who is going to live at the end? Is everyone going to be dead? Like, that's what I'm thinking. But overall, I love this book, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So here it is, The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. The next book that I had read in March, which I'm so excited that I started reading this series. I heard nothing but great things about it. It's all over BookTube. It's still going to continue over BookTube because it's amazing. And then on top of that, there's going to be a novella coming out, I think, this month, or next month. But that is Jade City, and this is by Fonda Lee. This is the first book of the Green Bone saga. And wow, this book had me on my toes. Like, there's so much action, so much thrill. We get to know about Hilo and Lon and Shay, and how Lon is, you know, like the approachable brother who, you know, is more rational with his decisions. But then you have Hilo, who is the hothead, who will just go off the hinges at an instant. If you piss Hilo off, oh, believe it or not, he's coming to get you. If you get him, he gonna get you. So if you get got, you know, all that stuff. If you get him, he gonna get you. End of story. And so Hilo, as he is not irrational, he is very hot-headed. He's fast to anger and actions. And then you have Lon, who is just like looks at the bigger picture, try to evaluate what to do or when to do things. But then you have Hilo, who's just the opposite. And then we have Shay, who does come back into the picture. She had left the family due to, you know, certain things about growing up and training and having Jade and stuff like that. And she really didn't want to have that life, but she did come back. And she came back on the most tragic news, and that is that Lon, her brother, was killed. Now, all this has to do with like clans. You have No Peak, and then you have the Mountain. So you deal with clans there, or you could say gangs, but they're clans in this book. And it's all about, you know, having the power of Jade, and also having that SN1. And so as Lon, since he is killed, his brother has to take over, Hilo. And a lot of people did not want that. But then on top of that, the people wanted Hilo to be dead, not Lon. Hilo is the hothead one that just makes bad decisions, doesn't evaluate what has happened, and try to make the best move possible. Then you have Lon. And, you know, they were pissed that it wasn't Hilo that was killed and it was Lon, because Lon was the more reasonable brother. So we have that. And then we also have Andon, who is the cousin who is at the academy, learning more about the clans and stuff like that, and being prepared for when it's time for him to graduate and take Jade himself. But that doesn't turn out how Andon had wanted towards the end of the book, which is why I'm looking forward to the second book. I want to know what happens to Hilo and Shay and Andon, because from Andon and Hilo, it just didn't end on good terms. And Shay, she's still trying to figure out her way back. You know, she's back into the clan, and I think she's just trying to she's getting her toes wet just a little bit, but slightly. Like, she's dipping in, but slightly in, not full blown in, but she has no choice now since Lon, her older brother, was murdered or killed. So we have that. And now we're at war between No Peak and the Mountain, I believe is what it's called. And then of course you have this map on the book where it goes into like the boundaries of the clans, like the armpit and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Between the two clans of No Peak and the Mountain, we also find out who really killed Lon, and I did not see that coming. But then I also did, because at the very beginning of the book, he was trying to take their Jade in the first place. But I don't know. I don't know. It was just so good. Fonda Lee's writing is amazing. Now, I did listen to this on audiobook and read the physical, so I did some hybrid reading, and it was definitely action packed. And there was some steamy scenes with Hilo and Wen, who is now his wife or whatever. So yeah, there were some steamy scenes. But if you didn't know, this is also adult fantasy, so just throw that out there now. This is not young adult, this is adult fantasy. But love this book, and I cannot wait to read the second one. The next book that I have read, which also this is the Brandon Sanderson read along, which is going to be happening throughout the rest of the year, and this is the first book that we started out in March, and that is The Final Empire by, of course, Brandon Sanderson. Love this book. I cannot wait for the live show, which is on the 9th. And I look forward to everyone coming and joining us as we discuss this amazing book. Kelsier, loved him. And every time I think of Kelsier, like in my mind, if I think of him as the Witcher. I forget the actor's name, but he's so fine. And so that's who comes to mind every time Kelsier is brought up in this book. I kid you not. I think we all in agreement on who would be Kelsier if there was like a live action movie or character at least. And then we have Ven, who is very annoying. But I get it. I get it why she was just so annoying and that she was rebellious on a lot of things. But then I also love the love interest between Ven and Ellen. So we have all that. And then, of course, at the beginning of the book, you talked about trusting and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody needs to kill him right now because he's already getting on my nerves. And his way of talking and his manner towards the ska and stuff, like, yeah. But there was a happy, I was happy towards when we got, we found out more about trusting and what had happened to him. But I do not want to give so much away, but I will say the end had me in tears. I'm like, what? Seriously, why is he going? Like, I was like bawling because I was like, what? This did not happen. But it did. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. But then we get to know more about the Lord Ruler, which a lot of stuff was revealed towards the end of the book, which was amazing. I'm still speechless with the ending, but I love this book and I cannot wait to read the second one. But yeah, so I had read the Final Empire for Brandon Sanderson, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Like, I loved it. There was never a dull or boring moment. Like, we get to know more about the metals, how they are used and stuff, which I know Princess had mentioned to us. Like, every time he brings up the metal and when they use it, he explains why it's used and how it's used and stuff like that. So you never get lost with the metals and stuff and the use of metals, which I love that aspect too. I didn't have to go at the very back of the book to learn, okay, what's this metal again? Like, what does this mean? And stuff like that. But it does give you all the metals and their uses in the very back of the book if you are curious. But yeah, a 5 out of 5 stars for the Final Empire. And I look forward to reading the second book. So there you have it. The next book that I had read, which I even did a whole video by itself, a whole rant review, and that is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I'll leave that video up above so you can check out that video after you watch this one. And yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, but then the ending came and I'm like, yes, why was this, like, seriously, you gonna do this to me now? Like, at the very end of the book, at page 798, you gonna do that to me? So through, like, literally when I was 50% into this book, nothing was happening. I kid you not. Like, I'm being, okay, dead serious. Nothing was happening. There was tons of reveals about this character and this character and this character. Then this other character pops up, even though she's supposed to be dead in the first book, but she still's popping up. And I'm thinking, like, okay, is she alive then? Since we keep bringing up Danica? But I guess not. Okay. And so that's what I was like. It was like a guessing game throughout the entire book. I'm like, okay, when does this happen? Is this something else going to happen? Why are you bringing this up now, Sarah? Like, okay, you brought this new character up. So is this character going to be doing something towards the end of the book or the plot? Like the conclusion? Like what? So I was all over the place and emotionally. And then here comes the last page before the epilogue. And I'm like, wow. Sarah, I feel you did that on purpose. You did that on purpose so that now that this person is in this book and has an introduction to the last fucking page of this book, You're going to want people are definitely going to get the next book for sure, just because of that introduction of this new character. I'm like, wow, Sarah, just take all my money. Just take all my money. When is the next book coming out? When is it coming out? I gotta know so that I can get my coin ready, okay? But yeah, I was so close on giving this book a 2 out of 5 stars, but then the ending definitely just effed it up for me and changed my mind. And that's the only reason why, because the last part of the book, and not for the book itself. It was literally the last freaking page. But yeah, I will let you watch that video so you can check it out. But yeah, I was on a rampage, and as you just seen right now, I'm still on a rampage about this book and how it wasted my time until it got to the end. But yeah, you will get to know my full rating of this book once you watch my rant review. So this is also the other book that I've read. And last but not least, I finish out the the month with a graphic novel, and that is Wingbearer by Marjorie Liu and Tenny Isakanen. I love this book so much, and the cover is gorgeous. We're following a girl named Zuli who is pretty much raised in a tree, and this tree is not just any ordinary tree. This tree is where birds, once birds die, the tree is where they are reborn and are off into somewhere else in their life, which I loved so much. Which I want to like show you the tree. So this is the tree itself right here. And that's where Zuli is staying. But then something happens to the tree where birds are not being reborn. And this regular tree and regular leaves are growing on the tree. And Zuli's trying to figure out what's happening. And then you also have the other character, Folly or Holloway, I forget his name, but he's the owl, the talking owl. And so they're on this adventure. They leave the tree and they're on their adventure trying to find out why birds aren't coming back and being reborn. And she steps into this new world where she has no clue what she's doing, where she's at, where she's going to be going towards. And she still has this question in her head, like, are there any people like me? You know, because she's the only person who lives in the tree. And she was left there, and she was raised by the birds and stuff like that, and the spirits and animals that are around that tree. And she wants to know if there was somebody out there just like her. Excuse me. And so as she's on this adventure, she does end up meeting friends. Right here is the other friend, which I forget his name. And then we have another one. But the whole point of this was to find out why things are dying. Why, you know, the birds aren't being reborn and coming back and what have you. Then she ends up meeting someone that she did not expect. And that is the Queen Witch. I believe they called her the Queen Witch or Witch Queen. And it was different. I did not even see that coming. Like, I knew something was going to happen, but I just did not know what that was. So, but here is like the Witch Queen or Queen Witch, whatever, right here. She's not showing her face just yet. And as she meets this witch or queen, whatever you want to call her, Queen Witch, it says in the book, she meets her twin sister. I'm like, what? Seriously? Like, where'd you come from? Like, but then of course the Witch Queen or whatever, she ends up telling Zuli that, yeah, their parents have separated them and put them in different worlds or whatever. We don't know much about this. We know that, you know, Zuli especially is supposed to have wings, but she doesn't right now. And then usually when she uses her powers, which she does have magic powers due to the bracelet on her wrist that her parents left her, she does have powers, and at some times in any moment she'll end up having her wings, but it's for only like a slight moment, nothing longer than that. But I love this book. I loved everything about it. I love the adventures. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to reading the next book, because how it ended, there has to be a next book. And even on the back, which I'll even read this right here, it says, enter a world where magic takes flight. Zuli is an extraordinary girl. She just doesn't know it yet. Raised by mystical bird spirits high among the branches of the great tree, she has no idea what awaits in the world beyond her safe haven. But when a sinister force threatens the life-giving magic of the tree, Zuli must venture out with her guardian owl, Frawley, to get to the root of it. So begins an adventure bigger than anything Zuli could have imagined, one that will bring her face to face with an ancient dragon, a terrifying witch queen, and most surprising of all, her own true identity. So not only does she find friends and stuff and get to know more about this outside world beyond the tree, she's also trying to identify where she came from. Who is she? And I think this is also where she finds her identity, because that's what her main thing of this book, I feel, is to find her identity and where she belongs in this world. So I love this. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I have nothing bad to say about it. It's a graphic novel, so I got through it fairly quickly. But as far as the graphic novel goes, I love the graphics. I love like the pictures. It's very colorful. I just love it. The detail is just amazing to me. And like I said, I love the character of this book, and I love all the characters. Let's just say all the characters, because they're all amazing and they all have their own component that they bring into this book, which I love. So yeah, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, and I definitely look forward to reading the next book when that comes out. And that is it. Those are all the books that I have read in the remainder of March. I really hope you enjoyed this video and this wrap up. If you did, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and please stay healthy and stay safe. See ya.